All right. Oh boy, we got a whole hell of a lot of news to get into here today. I'm going to try not to have this go way too long for you all. So let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and hop straight into the news. Hope y'all are all doing well. Thank you for stopping by. If you like the content, consider subscribing. Okay, so this broke a couple days ago. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported that Bioshock 4 developer Cloud Chamber is laying off an unspecified number of staff members, and former Diablo boss Rod Fergusson is taking over as the new studio head. Which is wild how the circle of life kind of comes back around, and you'll probably remember that Bioshock Infinite was having some trouble getting across the finish line, and Rod Fergusson was who they brought in to make sure that game shipped. And his nickname, his people have called him the closer for a while, and then that's seems like he is called the closer for a reason. He comes in and gets projects into a shippable state and is apparently really damn good at producing, fucking excellent video games that sell really, really well. Because keep in mind, I know people have beef with Bioshock Infinite, but it is the best-selling Bioshock game ever by a country mile. And, it's the only one he was ever involved in. So, but to be fair with that, he does obviously work on games that can be a bit divisive amongst like the hardcore community of that fandom. Diablo 4 and Diablo, the fucking, what was it, Immortal, the mobile game? With Blizzard, that hardcore fandom for Diablo doesn't seem too hot on either of those games. I think Diablo 4 got out the gate pretty hot. It seemed like people were pleased with that initially, but it seems that has dried up a little bit over the years with, lacking support, or maybe not really appreciating the support that it's getting, and not being too hot on the updates. But once again, I'm not really in that community. This is just something I'm picking up from afar. But he was the lead on Gears of War 4 and 5, or Gears 4 and 5, which are divisive amongst the hardcore Gears fan base. And then, like we talked about at the beginning there, Bioshock Infinite is definitely the most divisive. I don't know. I mean, Bioshock 2 with Ken Levine not being involved in it at all, like, I guess that might be the most divisive overall, but Bioshock Infinite was also pretty damn divisive. Yeah, worth noting all of that, but also worth noting that this game will 1000% come out now. If Rod Fergusson is overseeing this project as a producer, or I think he's the head of the studio for Cloud Chamber now. So with him leading up the development and overseeing this thing, it's going to release. As far as I'm aware, I don't think he's ever had a game canceled. Like at least not a big game that he was the producer of, or some overseer high up leadership role. I don't think he's ever had anything canceled. I'm sure, once again, something really early on in his career. Of course, every developer has had shit like that canceled, but, listen, he gets shit done. You can argue about the quality, you can argue about the writing, the direction, or all of those subjective things you can argue about till the cows come home, but if the objective goal is for this dude to come in and get a game into a shippable state and make a whole hell of a lot of money off of it, he does that pretty consistently. So I think this is really, really good news for Bioshock 4. Bioshock Infinite is my favorite Bioshock game of the series by a pretty good margin. I agree, not as strong narratively as Bioshock 1, but holy shit, the gameplay in Bioshock Infinite is on a different level, in my opinion. So I don't know. I think this is good news. Rod Fergusson leading up the old Bioshock 4. And next, we have a story from Bill Baccoon here, and very, very reliable insider, leaker, whatever you want to call it. They say, pricing alert, here are the final prices of Xbox handheld consoles in US dollars. The ROG Xbox Ally is $549. The ROG Xbox Ally X is $899. So $550 and $900 for these two consoles and their respective sort of specs and all the bells and whistles that you can get for that Xbox Ally X that's going to cost you $900. That's a lot of money. And I'm glad that these handhelds are flooding the market for people who enjoy them and the people out there with insane amounts of disposable income. And I know these devices aren't made for just the everyday normal person. So, hey, sure. In that realm, go ahead, charge your $900. And if you can fucking sucker that out of a couple 100,000 people, get a couple 100,000 people to pay $900 for this thing, then more power to you, I guess. But I'm sorry, man. Like, this is a fucking insane price point for any normal person. And I should say that on the Xbox official website, it states that the price is pending due to macroeconomic conditions. So, but listen, Bilbakun, Dia Labs, they are bulletproof. Their track record is fucking bulletproof. So I assume that these prices are correct. And if anything, I think this might be best case scenario prices. Like, if we do see some, either increase or decrease to the price, I think it's much more likely to be an increase to that price point rather than a decrease. So it's, and it's only got a 1080p screen on it as well. This is just a really, really, I get it. I get it from the standpoint of trying to pitch this thing to investors as like the new shiny object on the market, right? Like, that's what these console manufacturers, that's what these publicly traded game companies are doing every day. They're trying to sell you on the latest and greatest, the new hotness, whatever that may be. And right now, people are starry-eyed over the handheld market and the potential and the ceiling for this and the growth potential for, like, you look at the Switch, it's the highest selling console other than the PS2 of all time. And I think the fucking DS is in there as well. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. It's like, man, there's so much potential in this handheld market. So you really want to dabble in that space. But these price points are outrageous. And listen, I don't think Asus is really trying to dabble in that space. Like, I don't think they're trying to make mainstream devices for a mainstream audience. They're trying to make these devices for a couple 100,000 people who have a fuck ton of money. And, like, I guess good on you. But Xbox's involvement, and Xbox doesn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? They're just slapping a logo on this thing. But it's like, I do think about this in context of Phil Spencer with that statement where he said something to the effect of, we're not going to grow the market with $1,000 consoles or whatever. And it's like, well, listen, I guess you don't care about growing the market with this thing, which is, I get it. That's commendable. No, I don't really have any problem with that whatsoever. Just throwing something into the market for a very niche audience, there's nothing wrong with that. But when your next console is going to be this PC Xbox hybrid, how in the fuck is that not going to be over $1,000? You know what I mean? How is that not going to be another $800+ device? And I just see no world where this thing is cheaper than the next Xbox PC hybrid. And if it is, that is a very, very appealing sales proposition, because I just bought a damn laptop, an Asus laptop for doing work here and making sure that I can get 4K video out to y'all and trying to improve the quality quite a bit on the end for the channel. But this thing was like $1,300, $1,400. And that's really fucking expensive. And I assume that Xbox console is going to be a whole hell of a lot more powerful. And obviously they're different things and they have different, it's not going to be a 1-to-1 price comparison based on power alone, because the laptop does different things. And I get all that, but I don't know. I don't see a world where that next Xbox Series 2, whatever you want to call it, is under $900. And so at that point, is it just kind of the scenario of like, hey, listen, we are out of the mainstream market. We have an audience of 20, 30 million people, and we want to continue providing them with a way to play our games on the platform that you love and give you the best, most powerful console on the market, the premier option to play these games. And like, yeah, I think that's going to be appealing to a lot of people as well. Is it going to retain your 20, 30 million that have bought into the Series X generation? Probably not. But if you can keep 15 of those million, like that's fucking 15 million. That's more than have bought a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally or all of those, niche PC handhelds. That's more players that will buy that next Xbox than all of those PC handhelds combined. So it's not like that's a totally worthless market at all. But it's also not necessarily like a mainstream market. And it's funny seeing this influx of rushing to the handheld space from all of these different manufacturers out there, your Asus and your Lenovo Legion Go and your Steam Deck and your this and your that and everything under the sun. PlayStation is getting involved, Xbox is getting involved, and it's like, once again, is Xbox with their own proprietary they are still developing a handheld on their own, right? Like, they are still manufacturing their own handheld sometime. I think it might be for the Series 2, they're going to have the PC console hybrid and also a handheld, if I'm not mistaken. All these rumors just float around everywhere nebulously, and I'm trying to pick them out. And is that actually legit? Is that not legit? So I apologize. Obviously, correct me in the comments if you have some information that is that can clear up my train of thought here. But I think about that next handheld, and because PlayStation is getting involved in that space too. And I know PlayStation, the rumor is they're going to try to keep that price point around like $500 or so for the handheld. And I think that is appealing, definitely more appealing than $900. But I think the starry-eyed nature of trying to get into this handheld market, I think they're kind of missing the forest for the trees of like, no, dude, people buy Nintendo for Mario. And I hate to beat the drum over and over and over. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but it is kind of like the news comes in and you just gotta, I don't make the news. The news is constantly circulating regarding these handhelds, but my opinion has been and will remain that there's not really a big market for handheld gaming. There's a big market for Mario. You know what I mean? And people will go wherever Mario is. And I don't know. It's the PlayStation Portable 2 is not going to have an Infamous game that is exclusive to that platform, or a fucking God of War game that is exclusive to that platform. I think it's just these things I think are going to have to be looked at as like a side piece. And with that comes crazy price points. So if you're not trying to make this mass market thing, and Asus can't do that because they can't sell games. They don't have a storefront. Xbox can do that because they do have a storefront. But if you're only going to sell it to 500,000, a million people, you really don't want to take a huge loss on that. So you keep the price really high because you're not going to necessarily be able to make it back off software sales because not enough people are even going to be in that ecosystem, in that specific, buying that specific SKU of hardware to make that money back through software sales. So I don't know. I could go on and on about that. I just think it's and listen, I'm interested in this space for sure. I would love to buy a Steam Deck. I think those things look awesome. I think that this will probably be dope. The ROG Xbox Ally, the PlayStation Portable 2, I think that'll be dope. And I don't think it's going to be called the PSP 2. I think that'd be cool. I think that would actually kind of be smart from a marketing standpoint because the PSP was the only successful, handheld that PlayStation ever made. But yeah, GameSpot has a 10-minute gameplay preview for Resident Evil 9 that is out right now. And watch the full thing. And I'll give you some of my key takeaways. I don't have many, if I'm being honest. My main takeaway out the gate is that it just looks familiar. Nothing in this 10-minute gameplay snippet is going to blow your mind. It looks like Resident Evil. If you like Resident Evil, you'll probably like what you're seeing here. There's nothing in here if you don't like Resident Evil that's going to be like, oh my God, that is a game changer. It's going to get me into the franchise for the first time. At this point, you know what you're going to get with Resident Evil. You're going to get great games, but nothing that's necessarily mind-blowingly innovative. Resident Evil is it's not one of, it is my favorite video game franchise of all time, but Like, we have to be honest with ourselves. It's not, let's kind of break this down, and we'll get into all of that, all of my thoughts overall on the franchise, after we break down the bits of gameplay here. So, one of my key takeaways specifically regarding the gameplay, I know this is a very, very odd thing to be a key takeaway, but I think one of the most impressive things I saw in this 10-minute demo was just how realistic the flesh looked. There's a dead body that pops out of this like closet or, pantry or whatever, and it just looks fucking insanely realistic, like to a scary degree. And then, in this same kind of snippet, you see the stalker enemy, where in this same little snippet of gameplay, this big ass stalker enemy pops out and just devours the dead mutated creature zombie looking thing, and then you're having to escape that big ass stalker. And that's probably where like something so specific that sticks out to me that maybe other people won't get overly hyped about, but you see the influence there from the Chant, the game that released in like 2023. But in the Chant, they have this feature where if you press circle too many times to dodge, you'll fall down. And they kind of aped that in Resident Evil 9, where you see Grace, she's like panicking, running away, and she keeps falling down. And I don't know, I really, really dig that idea a lot, because that's so crucial to horror. The whole idea of running away from a big bad and then falling down, that is absolutely crucial to, survival horror. But it seems like once she gets into like a well-lit room, the stalker avoids her at that point. So maybe that's kind of the key to safety, is to find the light, which once again, obviously that's a horror trope that has been, it's been around, it's been done a million times, but it's always fairly satisfying, in my opinion, to finally see that light at the end of the tunnel and just make a beeline towards it. So I dug that quite a bit. And then there seems to be a lot of dealing with just straight up pitch black areas where the monster is, kind of on the hunt, and you have to extinguish your lighter's flame because it'll spot you if you're in the light. If it sees you, it'll spot you. So you have to completely extinguish that flame. So you're literally exploring these completely pitch black environments. There is no light. You can't make out shadows. You can't make out anything, which is terrifying. And I love that idea of truly having no clue what is in front of you at all. And obviously, they're going to have to be smart about this and find the correct balance, because if you can't see in front of you and the monsters and the zombies and all that are popping out and grabbing you and, doing harm to you, and you can't see them at all, that's going to be a problem. But at the same time, you're going to need at least a little bit of that to build enough tension to make you worry that it's going to happen every time. Even though it's not going to happen every time, even though they need to find the correct balance to make sure that doesn't happen every time, it has to happen at least sometimes to make you really have that fear of the dark. And of course, I think they'll be able to go in and have the correct sound design and then correct sound cues to kind of give you some hint if a zombie is in front of you, and you'll hear the little fucking moans and groans that the zombies do. And so it'll have those things in there that I'm sure will give you the cue to alert you that a zombie is nearby. But I like that idea a lot of dealing in pitch black environments, pitch black areas, not having any idea what is going to pop out in front of you. But yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, you see the monster, also break through the walls, very Mr. X, Nemesis, Jack Baker-esque, but once again, it's nothing you haven't seen before. Like, pretty much everything in here is something you've seen before, other than falling down, and that's kind of it. Everything else in this demo is stuff you've seen before in other games and even other Resident Evil games. It's kind of going back to that point. Resident Evil is not the series you look to. Like, I remember the rumor where it was like, you're going to see some Last of Us 2 style gameplay in this. And it's like, are we? Listen, no, I love Resident Evil way more than The Last of Us, but it's not when you're looking at innovation, when you're looking at, oh my God, impressive tech and like these holy shit wow moments, you're not getting that from games that come out this frequently. You know what I mean? You can't get that from games where their development cycle is 2 years, 3 years. And that's the thing where it's like, I would rather have this. I would rather have these infinitely replayable, just fun ass video games opposed to games that, and it's not that I would rather have one or the other. I want both. You know, but Resident Evil specifically, like, I'm totally fine with getting these games out very frequently and all of them being somewhat similar to the last one. I just love this format. I love this loop. I love how they play. I love the first person games. I love the third person games. I am just a absolute mark for this shit. And if you're not, once again, that's why I prefaced all that at the beginning of when you're looking at this gameplay, like anybody who is watching this and is not a Resident Evil fan, nothing about what you're seeing is going to sell you on it. You know, at least not yet. Maybe something down the line, but nothing that has happened so far that I have seen is like, I got to go show this to my buddy who likes, you know, fucking Elder Scrolls. It's like, and of course that's, you can say that for every game, but it's just like, there's nothing in this that I think would appeal to anybody that hasn't already got into Resident Evil and enjoyed the franchise in the past, which is not a bad thing. These games are selling like hotcakes, so continue to feed the fandom. The people who like what they like, continue to give them what they like. There's no need to go in and completely retool and reanimate and reiterate and like, well, I guess that's the thing, the iteration. The beauty of that process is like, theoretically, in a perfect case scenario, each of these games should be better than the last. Just a little bit. Even 2%, 3% better. It's like, okay, well, RE8's better than 7. RE4 is better than 2 and 3. You know, it like there's these improvements. There's these new kind of just slight tweaks. And that should be, and I'm not saying better in the sense of like, obviously you can have your favorites and you can like 7 more than 8 and you can like 2 more than 4 or whatever the case may be. But I think at least I would assume you'll probably be able to look at the more recent game and be like, oh yeah, well that's a cool new feature. Oh yeah, they kind of built off of that foundation and added this new thing. Like that's what game development used to be. Before we had these 10-year development cycles where you ripped everything out from, you know, and just started over from ground up, not reusing any assets, not reiterating on anything, just building brand new, you know, from a mechanical level to every single front that the game is built off of. Like, just, I don't think that's sustainable for most developers. Sure, for Rockstar, go ahead. You're going to sell 100 million copies of GTA 6. Take 10 years, spend $1 billion. But Capcom doesn't need to do that with Resident Evil. They do not need to make this into some gargantuan $400+ million development cycle that takes 7 years to get out. It's just, yeah, I don't know. So I guess those are my takeaways from Resident Evil Requiem. Not much to talk about with this, but I still think it looks kind of exactly what I want it to look like, which, you know, I don't know if that's saying much, but it's saying something, I guess. IGN has a Onimusha preview out now, The Way of the Sword, and I watched the full thing on that as well. And my key takeaway here with this one was that the previewer emphasized that despite the recent influx of Souls games, Onimusha is absolutely not a Souls game. So fucking hooray, cue the clapping. He said it was breezy, fairly simple, pretty chill, just like a hack and slash action game, but kind of more slower paced than a character action game, more slower paced than a Devil May Cry, but not quite as slow as most Souls-like games. Yeah, and there's this really interesting system that is actually kind of exactly opposite of Souls games, where you as the player, you don't have a stamina bar, but the enemy does have a stamina bar, and every time you attack them, you deplete their stamina, and if you get it down to 0, they like stop fighting and have to catch their breath for a second, and you can go in and do a bunch of damage in those moments. But yeah, He was talking about how like a big part of the game is actually managing this gauge and these different meters of, enemy health and stamina, along with building out your red orbs that allow you to purchase upgrades, and blue orbs that feed your power gauge, and yellow orbs that replenish your health. And yeah, he was showing in battle there will be periods where you can do like special attacks and select between a power attack that will give you more blue orbs, or a power attack that will do extra damage to the enemy. So listen, it doesn't sound like anything overly complex, but it seems like there's enough layering to these systems that'll keep the game feeling engaging, enough going on there, enough complexity without it being overly complex. They have like perfect parries in there where you can deflect arrows back at the archers firing the arrows. And he was like, yeah, dude, the key to all of this, like all of that shit is well and good, but it just feels really damn good to wield that sword. It feels so good to play the game. And they were really trying to emphasize, like, this thing just feels fucking excellent to play. And yeah, he also talked about the game being kind of surprisingly humorous, which is very, very rare for these style of games. So that'll be a welcome splash of personality, in my opinion. And yeah, he talked about the demo that he played being really linear, which is, once again, music to my ears. So pretty much everything from both of these demos, back-to-back Capcom wins, in my opinion. I liked what I've seen from Onimusha Way of the Sword and from Resident Evil 9. And now I guess we're just waiting for a Dino Crisis remake. Come on, Capcom. You can do it. Take a drink of water real quick. All right. Next up on the docket, Where Winds Meet has a release date for November 14th and a new trailer that is by far the best one we have gotten so far for this game, in my opinion. I really dig the tone and just how they're presenting the story. It seems more story driven than I was expecting initially. And also, I think the traversal in this trailer looks sick as hell. You see your dude like jumping onto these different moving rail carts or some shit, and seems like there's going to be a bit of light platforming thrown into the mix here. And yeah, I think the pace of the combat looks absolutely perfect for what I'm looking for out of these type of games. Super quick. Once again, much more in line with a DMC than a Souls-like style title. They have multiple difficulty settings, and pretty much everything from this trailer I was pumped to see. But here's the part that worries me. It is free to play, so you can go to the pre-order page right now, and you'll see the game for $15. But that's not the actual game you're paying for. You're just buying skins and currency and all that goofy ass shit. I can't lie, man. Anytime I hear about a game with a single player component being free to play, my hype diminishes so quickly. Because you just know we're going to be pestered with all those annoying ass microtransactions. The whole pay to progress. That feeling is the most annoying shit in the world. It's why I completely quit playing NBA 2K. You know, like you'd have to spend hundreds of hours playing NBA 2K to get your character to like a competent rating, an 80 overall. You'd have to spend 100 hours in game to make your character like an 80 overall, unless you want to go and buy VC and you can spend $200 and you can become a 99 in 2 minutes. And it's like, well, that is absolutely fucking miserable. Kind of defeats the whole purpose of this thing, which I don't think this will be like that, but I don't know. I'm just worried about how much grinding is going to be in place here. I don't know. It's maybe it's like like an unfounded worry at this point, as we see so many free-to-play games pop up on the market, and I'm sure some of them are less predatory than others, of course, but they all just seem at least mildly predatory, and I would just rather pay fucking so some of the quotes in here, they talk about 150-hour long campaign and all this shit. And you know what, I'll read through it real quick, because what they're talking about in here, like if that was just the game, what we're talking about in this description, if that was the game and you paid $70 for it, I'd be on board for that. And I would be less skeptical, which is kind of sad to say. I would rather pay full price for a game than get it for free, because I know that when I get this for free, it's not actually free. Nothing free is actually free. So it says, build your fighting style to match your rhythm, whether you thrive in the heart of melee, strike from afar, or move unseen in the shadows. Choose how you engage and build a loadout that supports your playstyle. Take control of fluid, responsive martial arts combat. Build around classic Wuxai. Listen, guys, you already know my pronunciation skills and my fucking understanding of vocabulary is at a 3 out of 10. But yeah, you build this Wuxai weaponry skills and strategy. Wield weapons, both familiar and legendary. Sword, spear, dual blades, glaive, fan, and umbrella. Switch between weapons, bows, and mystic martial arts like Tai Chi to outmaneuver your enemies. Create and customize your character and progression. Choose your role in a fractured world. Align with powerful factions. Explore distinct professions and forge your identity through your actions. Adventure alone or forge your community. Embark on a rich narrative-driven adventure with over 150 hours of solo gameplay, or open your world up to 4 friends in seamless co-op. Build or join a guild to unlock a wide range of group activities, from intense guild wars to challenging multiplayer dungeons and epic raids. Prove your might in competitive duels or step into a shared, ever-evolving world with thousands of fellow adventurers. Who are you? A hero or an agent of chaos? Here, freedom is your choice, but every action has its weight. Cause chaos, defy the law, and face bounty's pursuit, even time behind bars, or walk a nobler path. Befriend villagers, forge alliances, and grow your reputation as a hero of the Wuxai world. The Wux that word is gonna fucking stump me. In a world torn by chaos, become the spark that ignites change and forge your legacy. And yeah, then it goes on to talk more about the open world and all this, that, and the other. It's once again, what I am seeing here is very fucking appealing. You know what I mean? Everything that I'm reading sounds very, very appealing to me. I am just so skeptical of why it is free to play. You know, that sounds like a lot of content that could be worth real money, and I would rather pay you the real money than be bombarded and be annoyed with all of the, you know, free to play trappings. But I don't know, maybe that's just my old ass man, you know, my sort of archaic view on free to play games. Maybe they're evolving and I don't know about it. Let me know in the comments down below if you're playing some free to play games that are less predatory than others. So hopefully that is the case for, and I don't know, I mean, if PlayStation is involved with it and marketing it so heavily, I think it's exclusive to PlayStation if I'm not mistaken. So where winds meet, November 14th. Let's hope for the best. It looks cool. Staying right there in the land of the station of play, the PS5 is getting a price increase in the United States from August 21st. The PS5 is going from $499 to $549 for the base PS5. The PS5 digital is jumping from $449 to $499. The PS5 Pro is jumping from $700 to $749. And, yeah. You're talking about some pretty significant prices. I mean, these are some significant ass price increases, man. Like, $50 across the board on every single fucking variant. That's not small. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and try to act like some political expert analysis, but fuck, man, this shit sucks. You know, I guess there's your hot take. Prices going up is a bad thing. We're 5 years into this console generation, and these consoles are the most expensive they have ever been right now. And, you know, due to market conditions and due to whatever terminology they want to use, but it's all related to these tariffs. And I don't want to give Sony like a complete 100% pass here. Because for sure, you know, going back to the macroeconomic situation at hand, like that is definitely a major factor, and the major factor, no doubt. Like nobody on either end should get a pass. The Trump shouldn't get a pass, but I also don't think PlayStation, Sony, I don't think they should get a pass either. Like they will take any of these situations that they can and maximize their level of greed that they can justify. So it's just worth noting that nobody should get a pass here. And I get it, right? Like, they supposedly had this 3-month stockpile built up of PlayStation 5s that they had already shipped over. And I guess now we are at that point where that has been sold, that has been shipped, that they're out of that stockpile. That is no longer available. And so now we're left with the current market conditions that they're having to I get the reality of the situation. Like, I'm not saying that in no way, shape, or form is PlayStation or is Sony, like, they are having to deal with the realistic political climate that they're faced with today, like, no doubt. And from that standpoint, sure, I will give them that pass. I that is the reality of the situation. But at the same time, my only thing that I'm saying is never give them too much of a pass. Just always keep in mind that these motherfuckers are very, very damn greedy. And this is the most greedy generation of PlayStation ever by a mile. And so, well, I don't know. PS3 is pretty greedy as well. But I guess that's my whole point that I'm trying to make here is it's not like we're in some Sony is a mega corporation. Let's not just willy-nilly be all buddy pal. Like, it's okay if I can charge us $800. We get it. Like, apply a little bit of pressure, apply a little bit of resistance to this. That's all I'm saying. And, it's so wild to me that we're on the precipice of the biggest video game launch in human history. We're less than a year out from it. We're less than a year out from Grand Theft Auto 6, and you're raising the price of your console. Like, there's no doubt. I don't care what the fucking market conditions and macroeconomic situation at hand and the political climate. Like, there's no world where Sony couldn't have ate this cost. There's no world where they absolutely fucking had to raise those prices to a point where, like, when GTA 6 comes out, this thing is going to sell tens of millions of units. We will see PlayStation 5s flood the market in May of 2026. Like, there's no doubt about it. And I mean, I guess that's a scenario as well where you have to think about it from that angle of, like, supposedly the rumor is that Xbox has stopped production of the series consoles in certain markets. And so if you look at it from that angle and you're like, okay, well, they're raising the price of the PS5. The Xbox, series consoles have already had the price raised, I think, like $100 or so. And so those Series X's that are on the market, I mean, you can still get Series X's for fairly cheap. And I'm sure that retailers will still have, PS5s for cheaper than these price points, hopefully. But it is kind of if your competition is kind of gearing up for, because if Xbox is pulling a 360 move here, where you remember back in the original Xbox days, I think in 2004, they stopped producing the OG Xbox and really ramped up production, getting ready for the 360 launch in 2005. If they're trying to do that here with the Series 2 and they're kind of ceasing production on the Series X, if Sony is looking at that, if PlayStation is looking at that, and they know that they can get away with this because their competition is kind of getting out of the market for the current generation of consoles and preparing for the next generation. And so they're like maximizing on that end before Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. And I don't know, hopefully by this time next year, we're just not even having these conversations at all and prices have renormalized. But I don't, even if that's the thing that I'm saying here, is even if all these tariff situations are sorted out and things get back to normal, but how long do things even stay normal? Because it seems like tariffs are issued and then pulled back and then reissued, and it's all of these, like, I just, once again, I'm never going to sit here and try to act like a fucking economist or a political analyst or anything like that, but it doesn't necessarily, at least in my opinion, it doesn't necessarily seem like super well thought out moves in terms of issuing these tariffs and removing and reissuing. And, like, I don't understand that from a layman's perspective. But I do like, even if we are in a situation where, let's say, this time next year, the whole tariff situation is resolved and everything is back to normal, back to like, whatever 2019 levels of normalcy, which it won't be, but let's just say it is. If that's the case, then do you think PlayStation's really going to decrease the prices because things have normalized? Like, I doubt it, right? If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. If they are increasing their prices now, they're not dropping that shit back down until, because we've never been in a situation where we're 5 years into a console generation and prices were at the lowest point at the launch of the console. Like, that's never fucking happened. This is crazy. We've only seen price increases. And we're talking like pre-tariffs for that shit. You know what I mean? We were seeing price increases pre-tariffs for a lot of these different systems. And once again, that's the thing, right? You can contribute that to COVID, and you can attribute that to this, that, and the other, but it's always something. And that's the thing where people are saying that this generation is the worst console generation of all time, or this generation, it doesn't feel like the days of old. And people aren't saying that in the sense of there's no games, and some people are saying that, but those people are, let's be real, they're either just not paying attention or they're purposefully blindfolding themselves. There's games aplenty. But the economic situation, the how fucking greedy these companies are becoming, that is something that is absolutely unprecedented, and it does hurt the overall feeling of the generation that we're currently in. Games are great, no doubt. Maybe not PlayStation games, maybe aren't that great in terms of their first party output. That's been less than desirable with the live service initiative and all that, but games overall are incredible. Kingdom Come and Baldur's Gate and Elden Ring and Indiana Jones and like all of these awesome games that have come out in recent years. But like, there is still this underlying, and I even feel it, there's this underlying feeling of like, it just seems that we're in like the peak era of corporate greed and capitulation to shareholders, and like everything being so shareholder reliant and dependent, and to the point where it's absolutely hurting because the thing is you want to sell these consoles at a loss to get people to buy games, right? You want to sell these consoles for as cheap as you can possibly get that number down to get people into your ecosystem to buy more games in your ecosystem. But like, I don't know, and is that kind of the issue as well, where the PlayStation 5 is only 2 million, I believe, at this time period. Like, if you compare time on the market for the PS4 and the PS5 up to this point, whatever, 5 years into the life cycle, the PS5 is only like 2 million units behind the PS4, and prices are not dropping. And by this point in the PS4's life cycle, the prices were, what were we talking, like $300, $250 that you could buy a PlayStation 4 for? And what would that have been, 2017, 18? Like, I know you could buy PS4s pretty damn cheap 5 years into that console's life cycle. And that's just no longer the case. And I think that there is you see like Genshin Impact, and you see a lot of these games pulling support for PlayStation 4 and focusing only on current gen. And a lot of us, like, anybody who's watching this probably has a PS5 or a Series X or a PC. But there's a lot of people out there who love games that simply cannot fucking afford this. And there's a lot of people out there who are looking at Grand Theft Auto 6 as like the one game that they want to play on the horizon. And, are hoping that by the time it comes out that they can buy a PlayStation 5 for $400. Because they're looking, it's like, oh, well, it came out in 2020 at $500. Probably by the time GTA 6 comes out, it'll be $300, $400. It's like, no, it's going to be fucking $600 instead of $500. Let me get the exact pricing. I don't want to misspeak. $550. It'll be $550. It'll be $600 after tax. That's crazy. And like my whole thing I was talking about weeks ago is like, it'd be so cool, man. PlayStation should roll out this thing where they package GTA 6 in with the PS5 and they just keep it at $500. It's like, what the fuck am I saying? Ain't no chance. No chance in hell that they're going to do that. You know, they don't have to. Where is the competition? You know what I mean? Where is like, what incentive does PlayStation have to make shit more affordable? It's being bought up in droves by, you know, the tens of millions at the most unaffordable prices possible. And I don't know. It's just, it's a little bit disheartening. And at the same time, even though it is being bought up in droves, I still think it's limiting your overall widespread appeal, because as much as, you know, PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo think that they're not competing with PC, they absolutely are. We're in the era of attention economy, right? Where TikTok is competing with consoles, where Twitter is competing with consoles, where Netflix, like, it's all attention based. It's not just a monetary, it's not just a platform, it's attention. And if you have fucking games that are being played, the same games that are being played on a PC that are being played on a PlayStation, and they're more powerful, you're playing the better version on PC oftentimes, and you're getting better deals, $3 games and shit on Epic and Steam sales and all that you'll never see on PlayStation. Which you do get good sales on PlayStation and Xbox, but not to that degree where they're just giving shit away on PC. And like, if you get a PC, you get a Game Pass subscription for cheaper than you can get on a console, but you can get that Game Pass subscription and also play your PlayStation games. It's like, you can't tell me that there's no competition between PC and PlayStation. As PC continues to grow and grow and grow, and PlayStation is kind of stagnating. Like, they're doing incredibly well, better than ever. But in terms of console growth, the user base, the install base is not, it's just not growing, you know? And so, yes, they're doing incredibly well. But couldn't they be doing better? And if isn't it, like, that's kind of the thing, right? You want to appease these shareholders and you want to show them ROI percentages, the increase here with the growth potential there. Like, I don't know. I think having a PlayStation 5 available with GTA 6 at a reasonable price point to get tens of millions of people into your console, like, probably wise. But at the same time, are they looking at some marketing research that I don't have in front of me and going, these people are going to buy it regardless. We're not going to give you a price cut. We're actually going to raise the prices, and we're going to bundle it with GTA 6, and we're not even going to give you much of a cut there. You know, maybe GTA 6, maybe we'll pull the Mario Kart World thing. And hey, here's GTA 6. If you buy this PS5 bundle, you get it for $50 instead of $80. That's kind of how it worked out with Mario Kart, right? Where if you bought it individually, standalone, it was $80. If you bought it with the bundle, technically you're spending $50 on the game if you look at it in comparison and in combination with the price of the console. So, like, the base console was $400 for the Switch too, and then if you got the bundle with Mario Kart, it became $450. So, but even then, it's like, I don't even know if PlayStation's going to do that. You know, I don't even know if they're willing to take that degree of a hit. It has just been, and that's back to that point of where people are complaining about this generation of gaming. I don't think a lot of that complaining is coming from a standpoint of not appreciating the output of games. Obviously, none of us are really appreciating the output of games from PlayStation because they have been a disaster in terms of first-party mismanagement. But in terms of the overall output of games from publishers and from the indie game makers, the AA space, even the AAA space has been great this generation in a lot of areas. But it's just been a greedy-ass generation. And yeah, so once again, I'm absolutely not excusing the current political climate, Trump's tariff plan. I'm not excusing any of that. That obviously needs to be pointed out. That's the reason all this shit is happening. But nobody needs a pass. These companies will, any fucking little inch you give them, they will take that shit and run a country mile, my friend. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate, man. So, yeah, there's that, I guess. That's the show. I hate to end on such a bummer of a note, but there's some good positive stuff in here. And listen, like I always say, I don't make the news. I just report on it. But hit me in the comments down below. Obviously, if you have any differing opinions on this stuff, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I shall be back with you very, very soon. And take it easy, guys. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new. And yeah, appreciate y'all. See you very soon. Goodbye.